Welcome to episode 21 of Green Legion Radio's Ice to Shorts Winter Sports, brought to you by Bud Light. Hello to everyone out there following us on Facebook Live and YouTube and Twitter. And hello to everyone that is listening in the future. Two things before we get started here. Wherever you like to listen, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Amazon, most especially the iHeartRadio app, please subscribe, download, rate, and review this show and all the shows of Green Legion Radio. It really helps us out. Before we get to our distinguished panelist, who's back for the first time in a couple of weeks, just some small businesses, local businesses here. The one that's not that local, but Mike Dorenzi and all the fine folks over at Bud Light for sponsoring the show. We appreciate you. Stateside Vodka featuring their new bourbon. They'll deliver anywhere in the Philadelphia region. Give them a call. Give them a couple days. You get a case full of vodka delivered right to your house. Ken Davies at all City Fitness locations. They are now open. Cavs, Rittenhouse and University City, open for takeout delivery. Our friends at Chickies and Pete's in South Philadelphia, of course. Nexip, the safest way to drink hands-free. Go to nextstep.com. Bucks County Baseball Company, JP over there, online and in-store. And, of course, the lovely ladies at the Lilas reopening next week. We know that it's a time for celebration because our good friend, my partner in crime over here on Ice to Shorts, Chris Sack, the Sack Master, is back. How are you, sir?
I look about as good as I feel right now, and that is like complete crap. But brother, I'm happy to be back with you. I'm sorry for the last couple weeks. Kind of been knocked out a little bit, and I'm starting. I feel like now we're moving in the right direction with my recovery.
Well, that's a great little intro. So we know that everyone tunes in here to get all their latest Sixers and Flyers hot takery. Well, Sixers, truth, but Flyers some hot takery. But yeah, I thought Sack was sacked by the coronavirus for the last couple weeks, and just daily updates, getting updates from you. It's just wild, and it's not a joke. And I thought it would be interesting to talk about that, whether you know someone that was affected or not. Sack is a relatively healthy, young 30-year-old guy, and he's not old, he's not infirm, he's not morbidly obese or have any pre-existing conditions. So we want to talk about that. A lot of news in the last week in Philly sports. We'll hit a lot of that Eagle stuff tomorrow on Green Legion Radio. The new head coach, Nick Sirianni, how Philly fans are going to pronounce his last name, his staff. Most importantly, what this all means for us, the fans. Should we be looking forward or should we take a pass? We'll talk all about the conference championship games, the Super Bowl matchup, probably talk just how weird this NFL season was. But
and JT's back.
Big news today, JT Realmuto with the deal. Now, actually, I do want to ask you a question on that. I haven't seen all the terms just as we were preparing to get ready for this here, but wasn't this deal kind of on the table the last month and a half or something like that? I had heard it was 110 in 5 years. Like, I don't know. I'm making this up 3 or 4 weeks ago.
I don't know if it's been on the deal for the last month or so, but I do know it's been on the table for the last week since it was reported. This is something that JT wanted to set, which was the annual average value record for a contract for a catcher. Initially, him and his camp, they wanted a 7-year, $200+ million contract. The Phillies were practically negotiating against themselves this whole entire time, and they wound up coming out in the winning side of it as far as the financials. And, hey, JT got to set the record that he wanted for future catchers. So it's a win-win for both sides. And I'm ecstatic. I'm excited. I still think we're a fourth or fifth place team in this division. But, hey, it's a little bit more exciting when you have the best catcher in baseball back in town.
Yeah, it's a positive thing, and the news coming out of the Phillies, just some of the signings the last couple of weeks, they're not big moves or anything like that, but it gets them slightly better. And this just makes you feel not even just to win games and you have an all-star catcher. It just makes you feel like they're not completely punting on this year and the next couple of years over really. Yeah, all teams are having financial issues right now, but this is not a lot, all things considered, for the Phillies. And he's a fan favorite.
Correct, and we also should have a shortstop probably within the next 24 hours. One of the shortstops has come off the market, Marcus Simeon from he used to play for the Athletics. He's going to the Blue Jays. Looks like he's going to go to second base over there. And Freddie Galvis signed a pretty cheap deal to be the shortstop down in Baltimore. So the two guys that the Phillies have been linked to, now number one is Andrelton Simmons, who's one of the best defensive shortstops in the game. Right now it seems like he's number one at the top of their pecking order. And you still have Didi Gregorius so you can fall back on, who had a really good year, a really good couple months, but season for the Phillies in 2020.
Yeah, that was surprising. I mean, I thought that, I don't want to say he's washed because I haven't been watching his entire career, but he performed really well with a mask on the entire season.
Correct. Yeah, he's a good ball player, and he's the left-handed hitter. So, I mean, in reality, you'd like to have him back because you have a pretty right-handed heavy hitting lineup as it is. But hey, if you get I think he's 3 or 4, 5-time, Gold Glove Award winner in Simmons, you can't really lose with either one.
We got our good friend Sean Henderson on the comments on Facebook over here saying that glow on Diaz, I'm going to start calling him Saint. I think he's just jealous of all the hair up here. We got hair, and Sean, my man Sean doesn't, but that's good. Anyway, appreciate that. I wanted to ask you here. So this was like, I guess it was right around 3 weeks ago. Is it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, we had a Green Legion radio show on a Wednesday. I was not there, but everyone else was in studio. And then I think I was, hey, Zach, let's do a show. It was a Monday a couple weeks back. And he said, can't, I feel like crap. I got the COVID. So just starting it, before you got your positive test, like just the beginning, what was your timeline? When did you start feeling symptoms? And do you have any idea where you could have caught it?
As far as where I could caught it, Diaz, I couldn't tell you. I know a few people at my job had tested positive, a few, a week, 2, 3 weeks before I did. But I wasn't around them. I had no contact with them. Especially when the couple of them came back, they had negative tests when they returned to work. So I couldn't tell you exactly where I got it. I started feeling the symptoms really hard probably around Thursday afternoon, Friday morning. I just chalked it up to, being regular holiday, birthday, New Year's fatigue. Unlike, I don't really, couldn't really do anything this year. So I don't know really why I would have been tired, but that weekend I really didn't do anything. I sat around on the couch all weekend. We got to Sunday. My wife asked me to go take a COVID test, just to make sure. So I did one of those drive-through ones over at the Cherry Hill Mall. The thing is when you do one of those drive-through ones, it turns out that the accuracy of it is 85%. So they call it an antigen test. So it's 85% accurate. I got my results back in about 20 minutes after I took the test, and it was negative. So the next morning, that Monday, I decided, I got to go to urgent care. I got to get myself checked out. Like, maybe I have the flu. I need some answers. Like, why do I feel this way? I called out of work for the first time in 9.5 years. So that kind of sticks in my craw a little bit that COVID took out my streak. But I went to urgent care, and they asked me about taking the test, and I told them I took the test at the drive-thru, and they said it was an antigen. All right, cool. We're going to swab you for COVID again, which is but this one is molecular, which is 95% accurate, and we'll also swab you for the flu. So the doctor came back in about 20, 25 minutes later, told me I had COVID. At that point, I had to self-isolate from my family.
Right. So you obviously, your house isn't equipped for self-isolation. What did you have to do?
Well, it is to an extent. So our guest room up in the front of the house is a guest room / the boys' playroom. So we have a couch in here with a pull-out bed. So when I came home that Monday and we were trying to put our plan together, Rachel's like, do you want the bed in the bedroom or do you want to go up there? And I was like, it makes most sense for me to be up there. We can easily separate myself from the kids. Like, if you're sleeping up there, you're going to have to come to the back of the house to deal with them if, like, Carson gets up in the middle of the night or Jacob has a problem. I was like, it's just easier for me to go up there. At that point, I was pretty much on bed rest for a week. And I was away from my wife and away from my kids, and it was tough. It goes by pretty fast, but FaceTiming with your kids and them asking you, when you're going to be back around them, and you can give them a hug and a kiss again, like Jacob had been doing. That was really tough for me to go through that week.
Listen, and this isn't like, get me straight. I'm not like challenging your parenting or anything like that, but with all the news that kids aren't really, they don't really, not necessarily carry it, but they're not like a spreading. They're not, the schools are kind of allowed to be open and this, and I know you don't want any of your kids to get sick, but such extreme measures, is that something that you guys just felt comfortable with, or is that what the doctors or whoever they said, no, this is what you got to do? Because in the beginning, the reason I asked that, I'm going on here, but I thought in the beginning, the doctors or whoever said, you got to assume that Rachel has it. I mean, you guys are in each other's living space, obviously. So you have to assume she has it. Why? So the separation, I don't fully understand it.
Well, we decided to do that.
Okay.
It was, listen, at the time, because the boys were in daycare. Once we found out that I had COVID, we took them right out of daycare, and then we brought them home, and they couldn't go back for 2 weeks. And for me, it's the right thing to do. Rachel, she wore a mask that whole entire week. That she was taking care of the kids and she was working from home, and I did my thing. Up here, she would bring me food when I needed it, which was seldom. I didn't have much of an appetite.
Yeah, you lost some lbs. That's I lost silver lining.
I lost about 10 pounds during the course of that week. She would bring me like a yogurt and some toast, and then she'd come back in like 4 or 5 hours, and she'd be like, "Why didn't you eat the yogurt? You asked for it." And I'd be like, "I really didn't want to eat it." So that was rough. But really, in reality, I didn't want them like. Yeah, they might not show symptoms. They might not get sick. But what if they carry it and they bring it back to daycare this week?
Right.
And God forbid, one of the teachers, the director, one of the kids that do have something. And Jacob had RSV when he was a baby. His first Christmas, we were in the emergency room, and then we were in the hospital for 2 days with him having RSV. So I didn't want to take the chance because like Jacob hasn't shown any symptoms over the last couple of years of having asthma, but I really don't want to put that, and I can't live with that. So it was easier just for me to just put myself in a place for a week and take myself out of it.
Well, so when you did that, you said it actually went by pretty quick. I mean, that's a week, and when I had my heroic fall last year and tore up my leg, and I was homebound and couldn't move. Like, this was at the beginning of the pandemic, so everyone was kind of stuck at home. But like, it didn't go slow for me. So, were you sleeping a lot, or was it you just slept the whole time? Was that what were your symptoms like? Some people were like headaches, some people were like cough and like violent pain in their chest. So, like, what exactly was going on with your body that you felt?
I lost smell and taste for a few days. I was really lethargic. I was just, I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. It was a lot of times I had to really talk myself into like getting out of bed and walking to go to the bathroom. That was tough. So like I was lethargic and really beaten down for a few days. I didn't really start feeling like myself again until probably about Thursday, Friday. There's no TV in this room. And the first time I took myself out of here to watch anything was the Buccaneers Saints game that Sunday. And then I was actually starting to eat normal. I had a bowl of ice cream. I had some chips and salsa. I was like, okay, I feel like my appetite's starting to come back. And like the next day, that was when I took myself out of isolation. And I felt good that Monday. I was fine.
This was, I guess, last week, right? Yeah.
Yeah, last Monday.
A week ago, yeah.
Yeah, I was walking around fine. I was breathing normal. I never really had any issues with my breathing during the course of it. But I was walking around fine, and I was able to play with the kids. I was able to help Rachel out with things around the house. And then I went to bed that Monday night, and I woke up Tuesday morning, and I felt soreness in both of my calves, and I had no idea why.
And You could get to, you don't have to drop it right there. A soreness in calves. Well, I mean, we know you don't play basketball, and you're a white guy. You have no hop. So what happened from there?
So I woke up that Tuesday morning with soreness in my calves, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just general soreness. I just slept on a pull-out couch bed for a week. I had just gotten back into our bed that Monday night, and I just chalked it up to that. I was like, it's not that big of a deal. As I went on throughout that day, and I went into Wednesday, it still felt pretty bad, in particular my left leg. So that night we did 4 hours of recording on that Wednesday.
Oh God, not again, not this week.
as soon as I got done, I went to bed. I was exhausted. Quimby even said it the other day. Now he knows why I was cranky. It wasn't the 4 hours of recording.
Right. That's why I was cranky.
Yeah. So I woke up that night around 12:30, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I put my legs down on the floor to get out of bed, and I felt this sharp pain go right down my left calf, and I couldn't move it. I couldn't walk. I almost had to chalk up my own self-pride and like get on my hands and knees to crawl to the bathroom just so I could go. Luckily, my wife is a light sleeper. She got up. She's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I can't feel my left leg. I can't walk." So she helped me to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. I felt dizzy. I didn't feel right. I just felt really off kilter. So I came out of the bathroom, and the next thing I know, I'm on my back in the middle of the kitchen, and I'm looking up at our skylight. I don't know if I fainted. I don't know if I passed out. All I know is it went from point A to point B real fast. And then I'm looking up at the ceiling. I get up. I one leg hop back to bed. I lay down because at that point I'm like cold. I'm sweaty. I just want to sleep. So she brings me 2 Motrin, and I'm good the rest of the night. And then I go to urgent care the next day. On Thursday morning, that was my mistake. I should have went to the emergency room. That's what you guys have to understand. When you have COVID, don't be sedentary. Get out of bed, walk around, move, do things, even as much as you don't want to.
Yeah, because you were just laying around for a week.
I was practically laying around for a week. Yeah, like really, seriously.
Going back to that, I know. I mean, this was a scary symptom there, but no TV up there. I mean, were you just watching stuff on your phone, or were you just literally sleeping the whole time?
No, I would do things on my phone, and then when I felt tired, I would go to sleep. So that was my mistake. My next mistake was the fact that I went to urgent care instead of the emergency room. I went to urgent care. I sat in my car for an hour. I had a 9:35 appointment. They didn't bring me in until probably about like 10:45. At that point, I was hungry. I was frustrated. So they bring me in, and the nurse and the doctor both feel my calves, and they're like, "Well, you're not showing any, like discoloration. It doesn't look like you have DVT. It doesn't look like you have blood clots. But if you really
doesn't look like, oh my gosh,
yeah, well,
it doesn't look like you got blood clots.
So they don't have an ultrasound machine there,
right?
At urgent care. Now everybody goes, "Oh, what are you, pregnant?" Like, no, they do ultrasounds on other things besides people that are pregnant.
Yeah.
So I the doctor was like, "Hey, well, if you want a peace of mind, you have a very low chance, in my opinion, that you have DVT. Go, if you want to go to the hospital, go get yourself checked out. But I think you're good." So I told Rach, I was like, "Listen, I feel okay. Like I just have the pain in my left leg. I feel okay." So I go through Friday, I go into Saturday. My mother-in-law's in town. I go into the office for a few hours because I was supposed to return to work this past Monday after being out for 2 weeks. So I went into the office to try and just situate things, make my life a little easier when I come back to work. And then I call my wife like I normally do after I get done. And she's like, "Well, what's your plan?" I was like, "I think I'm going to go get checked out at the emergency room." So that was my next step. I went to the emergency room. They got me back there right away. I had an EKG. They took my urine. They took my blood. They did a CAT scan on my chest. They did an ultrasound on both my left and my right leg. By the time I was there for probably about 4 hours. By the time they gave me the results of what was going on, I have blood clots in my lungs. I have blood clots in my left leg, and I had like a. They said it was like a small case of pneumonia, but then it turned out that it was just a residual of COVID that was in here.
That's great.
Yeah. So immediately they admitted me. They're at Jefferson Cherry Hill. So I got admitted, and then they put me on a Hepburn drip, which is a blood thinner IV. So they had to practically monitor me on that. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 days for them to really like kind of coagulate it with your blood. So that way they properly, like, they see what your body can handle. It's tough sleeping on your back if you're not used to sleeping on your back. When you have an IV in your left arm, you have a blood pressure, pouch that's on your right arm that goes off every 2 hours. The nurses were coming in every 3 to 4 hours to take blood out of my right arm, which has been poked more than probably Quimby has done in Costa Rica while he's been there. And so, like, dude,
some of our people here. Sorry to interrupt you. Some of the people here, like, they're like, "Holy shit, damn, dude." Yeah, it's it sounds just terrible, and I wouldn't even know if I would be. I mean, yes, tired, but I'd be so mentally drained from that. I would just be like, falling asleep just because I was like depressed because it's so. It never seemed to stop. You thought you were feeling better. I mean, even now we were. I'll tell everyone we were talking beforehand, and your mic. I just was like, it doesn't sound exactly right. I think the mic isn't crackling. I think your voice is crackling. You sound like a different person. I don't know. If it comes back, hopefully, but it does feel like you got some like shit stuck in your lungs a little bit there. It's hard to get your normal voice out.
Yeah, it was tough, man. I mean, like, I just went from a week in isolation away from my kids, and then I think the stubborn side of me was the fact that, like, I knew if I had gone to the hospital and it turned out being something that I wasn't expecting, it was going to take me away from them even longer. And listen, for those people that don't have kids and don't understand how tough that is, and then. Another 2 days without them. It was tough. It was tough.
And Rachel's awesome, and I'm sure she did everything that she could. But like, like after a few hours, I'm sure they're scared.
Well,
what's going on?
Well, like, listen, man. It was tough because, like, with COVID and everything, they don't allow anybody in there. So,
yeah, I know.
So I'm in the emergency room by myself, which, listen, I'm a grown man. I'm 35 years old. I can handle myself, but it's tough when my wife has to pack me a bag and she has to drop it off to security at the ER, and she can't even come in and see if I'm okay.
Right.
At least come in and give me a hug and a kiss. Like, that would have been nice. You're sitting there in a hospital bed, and like, really, like, my case wasn't so bad to where, like, I had constant attention to where I was like around people a lot. Like, there was some times where I would go hours without seeing anybody unless they were coming to poke me for blood. So it was lonely, being in a hospital bed by myself. And, I played a lot of solitaire.
Candy Crush?
No,
Crushing candies?
I'm a solitaire guy.
Okay.
Play a lot of solitaire. Luckily I had the football games on Sunday.
Yeah, you sat. Based off the messages you were sending us, you were back just terrorizing Super Sam, which is great.
Here's the fun part. So Sunday I'm in the hospital. I'm in like the new wing at Jefferson in Cherry Hill, and so, like, it gets to a certain point in the day where you're not going home, so you just come to grips with it. But they did say that I was going to be downgraded to another room, so I'm in my room. And I had this 42-inch TV, and I'm watching Bucks and Packers. So the game's over. I start searching for CBS. CBS is not on this TV. I can't find it for the life of me to watch Bills Chiefs. So then all of a sudden it's like 7 o'clock, and they come in. They're like, all right, we're going to move you. We're going to downgrade you to another room. So they put me into an older room on the older side of the hospital. And I had this small TV, but hell, it had CBS, so I was able to watch the nightcap at least.
You should have told me. I have we when we moved into the new house, I got the YouTube TV, so you could just stream everything, which is it's actually pretty cool. It's just there's a slight delay on the game, so you got to turn off your Twitter alerts because everyone else ruins it for you. They're doing it real time.
It was all good. I came to grips with it if I wasn't able to watch it.
So what happens now? Like, so we were talking before. I got just other friends and stuff that they've got some long-term. They already know that they have some long-term issues, some scarring and stuff like that. Some other type of issues. Is it? Did they say like, oh, with people that had this type of symptom, you can expect X, or did they give any time frame when you start clearing up? Is there any like acceleration of the pneumonia that you had because of COVID that just made it harsher or stay longer or anything like that?
They didn't even give me an antibiotic for the pneumonia. They were never even worried about it. So like, in my opinion, like that's kind of just like status quo. I have to see a hematologist within the next week, which I'm going next Thursday. I have to see a physical care physician, which is a regular doctor.
PCP, yeah.
Which I don't
primary care.
I don't have one.
Well, this will be a learning lesson for you. You got to get your physical every year, dude.
Yeah, I know. So I gotta see them on Tuesday, and then I need to see a pulmonary physician within the next 4 weeks, which I have my appointment scheduled for March 10th, which is 5 weeks. I'm on call to get my appointment changed at any time. So I have 3 doctor's appointments already scheduled. I'm sure there's going to be more. I am on Eliquis right now, which I have to take for the next week up until next Monday morning. I have to take 2 pills in the morning. I have to take 2 pills at night. So I've been on rotation at 7 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night, taking those pills. And then after that, starting next Monday night, I'm 1 pill at night. I'm 1 pill in the morning for the next 3 months. So I will be on blood thinners.
You're like an old man, man.
It's
like even that sigh you just gave. I mean, it wasn't our normal house. Man. But you sound phlegmy. Like it sounds like there's something in your throat. You know.
It's in my chest, and it's rough. I don't have any answers on when my left leg is going to feel normal again. When I'm not going to have that slight grainy side to my voice gone. Good news is I'm back to work tomorrow, so I'm happy about that. I know a lot of people are like, "Why are you happy about going back to work?"
Oh, yeah. It's not like when you're in grade school or even high school where you're like, "Yes, day off," but you're sitting at home. I mean, I remember with my leg, like it was just like, God, I got to get out of here. You just got to, get back into the routine.
I'm a worker. I mean, I'm used to being at work. Like I said, I haven't called out of work in 9.5 years. My parents instilled that in me, that value of actually earning a living and going to work. And that's something I take pride in. And, my boss said, use my discretion. Well, my doctor said first, use my discretion. And my boss said, when do you want to come back? And I said, I just wanted a day to rest after coming back out of the hospital, and then I'll be back on Wednesday. I've already missed 2.5 weeks. I'm not missing any more time. I'll be back on Wednesday.
Well, again, take it easy and like not, take, be like a half-time guy. But, if you're feeling tired, just go home and say. So let me ask you this too, and then we'll hit some Sixers and Flyers stuff. Please. Here. But like on your way, okay. So we talked about everything that was going on, but like on your way out, like, is it just you start feeling better? Do you have to go and get tested, and they say you have a negative test or something like that? Like, how do you know that you're good to go?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I should have hit mute. I don't know. I don't know.
They didn't tell you? It's just like it's been 2 weeks. It's gone through you, even if you have symptoms. I mean, what's?
Are you talking about COVID?
Yeah. The COVID.
COVID took me. So, my symptoms were gone. A week ago. I felt better. I started feeling normal, except for the soreness in my calves, which turned out to be separate issues from being sedentary. COVID. They tested me again on Saturday, and I tested negative when I was at the ER. They just wanted to make sure that I didn't have it still, and so that was a relief. Knowing that I don't have COVID anymore, even though I feel like I don't have COVID anymore. Now it's just a separate battle. It's a separate issue. It's the next leg in the race, and I have to do what I got to do to get myself back to where I'm normal. Because especially by spring, like where it starts warming up and I can get outside to play with the kids. I want to get out there and kick the soccer ball around. I want to play hockey, with them. That's what I'm looking forward to. I can't wait to get back to a normal way of life and put this crap behind me. And I appreciate everybody listening this whole time I hope we're holding viewers.
Well, this is for the playback, but yeah, we don't have enough time on Green Legion Radio to devote 20, 30 minutes in hearing this, but you haven't talked to. We haven't talked, except for last week's show, and we gotta bang those out, even though it took forever. But
I really just want the one thing I want people to take away from this, and I really want to get to talking about sports, is listen to your body, and I want you to learn from my mistakes. Now I wasn't aware of that I was making mistakes, so I would really hope that people will listen to my story. What's going on with me, so then that way you don't make the same mistakes that I did and you put your body in jeopardy or your body at risk. It's a good thing I went to the hospital when I did, but if you are sedentary with COVID and then you wind up feeling soreness in your calves too, don't wait 5 days like I did. Go to the hospital and get yourself checked out immediately, because you might be better off than I made out.
Exactly. Yeah, right on. And the other thing too is, if you don't have a doctor, you don't have to see your doctor all the time. We know that at least 50% of the population hates Obamacare, but one of the Affordable Care Act's thing is everyone gets a free annual physical with testing, certain testing, blood test. It's free. It's guaranteed. You get one every year. So they don't do a whole lot, but it's better than not. There was something, I was doing a physical the other last year, and something had showed up weird, and we ran we ended up doing a scan, and they thought they found something. It was just a collection of blood vessels that were, the way that they were stuck together, looked like it was a mass. But it's scary. There's so many. You're a little bit younger. I'm in my late 30s. No, but this is I talk with my buddies. I'm not scared or nervous or anything, but this is where I still feel like I'm 25. So this is also when things start happening to people. You're a little bit younger, but still, even though you gotta just go to the doctor, get checked. It's good that you went in when you did, and happy that you're gonna recover, but. You're on the road back. Hey, listen, you've been lighting it up on our little text thread. Super Sam, I appreciate teaming up to go after her here. That now that her hero's in her 10th Super Bowl.
TB12, baby. TB12.
That's it. You know what? When we're done here, I'm going to sign her up for TB12.
Please.
Just to say, we'll film it, and then we'll film the reaction whenever she gets the emails or something like that. So. Everybody, take care of yourself. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. Keep your distance.
Listen to your body.
Listen to your body, and we'll be through with this hopefully as soon as possible. The one thing, I'm looking around. This is funny too. You'll get a kick out of this. So I looked on. I'm having a baby any day now. Due date is next Tuesday, a week from tonight. So really any day. And I'm just
I guess we're not doing a show next week.
If we have a new baby, no. I mean, we'll see. She has a meeting tomorrow, but I'm looking around.
What's mommy thinking? What's
mommy? She's hoping it's right now. She's hoping.
No. I'm not talking about when her body's gonna go. I'm talking what's mommy's intuition right now. I want to know what her best guess is. What is she thinking? Is she thinking boy or is she thinking girl?
Well, I think she's thinking boy. When we started, she was thinking girl, and then. I guess there haven't been any guys that have been like this with me, so I don't want to, say this is all women, but like a lot of the women, they have these intuitions, and the sun was shining one day, and I had a son, and stuff like that. So, but there's been more reassurances or assurances from other people that it was a boy. Now she thinks it's a boy. I think her mom thinks it's a boy too. So, again, healthy baby is what we're going for. Number one. But her family, they have a granddaughter. My parents, they have 3 granddaughters. If you're going to ask me which one, I'm going to say a boy. If we have a girl, she's going to love Star Wars. She's going to love soccer. She's going to love the Sixers. She's going to love the Birds, and she's going to love whatever else that she wants to love. But it's any day now.
Do we have names picked out? Now, you don't have to say them.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we do. We got boy.
Okay, we're ready.
Boy and girls. Steve Suter, he did a fantasy football draft in the hospital maternity room.
now,
that sounds like Suter.
Now, there's not going to be a Michael Diaz Jr.
No.
Thank God the world doesn't need another one.
No, there's only one, so this child will court their own path to greatness,
Talk about happier things. I love the fact that, it's like I told you, man, tell Abby, I hope you did tag your it. So my time in the hospital's over. Your time is coming, and I can't wait for baby Diaz to come along. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be great. And, it's right now. I'm excited. I'm nervous. It's a nervous excitement. I can't wait to meet this kid. But it's just like the waiting is making me anxious. I'm like, oh my God, like when is this? And any little kind of nudge or something she's feeling, it's like, okay, should we be packing the car? Should we get making calls? But yeah, so I would think. I mean, we think by next week there will be the newest member to Diaz Nation will be added.
I said, now you're moving to 3. I said all along, especially with Jacob, because he was the first. It's like waiting for your best friend to be born. And,
it's wild.
It's so cool. It's the greatest experience of your life when you get to sit there and watch this little thing that your wife has spent 9 months growing inside of her, and then it's real. It's right there in front of you. And the next thing you know, they take the baby, right there, and they put it right to get the skin to skin. And, right away. Yeah, your daddy, you're right there, and you get to sit there and put your finger right there and let the baby grab right around your finger. That's your first high five or handshake, however you want to take it. Like, it is the coolest experience of all time. And dude, soak it all in, enjoy it. I don't know if you guys are planning on having any more after this, but relish it, man. Really take it in.
I can't wait. I know that there's going to be a feeling, and I'm super excited. Super excited to meet it. So, this might be our last show for a few weeks here. So anyway, we've been talking for 40 minutes now. So let's hit a quick some quick NBA and NHL stuff, and then let the people go on their way here. There's a middle of a Flyers game that's been tied up in the second period, and
it's tied now.
Yep, and I want some answers from you on them. But as far as NBA goes, where we are right now, today's Tuesday the 26th, as we're recording this, not sure when you're listening. Sixers are currently first place in the East. I'll tell you why that doesn't mean anything. As far as our squad, lots of positives on this team. There's also lots of areas of concern. But the one thing that's pretty much unanimous, no matter where you fall, is they're better than last year, and they're infinitely more fun to watch. They actually look like a basketball team with roles clearly defined, and guys doing the things that help, the high salary guys on our team, Joel, Ben, and Toby. And nice surprises too with Shake Milton has looked like, it's weird. He did like a Lenny Dykstra thing or something, because the bubble ended for the Sixers in August, and they came back 4 months later, and he's jacked. He's got he looks like he's been working out for 2 years.
Yeah, but think of it like this, though. There's nothing else for them to do.
It's true, but just the amount of time. The amount of time. I mean, he must have he got on. The good news too, you don't hear a whole lot There's those the takes that are just like constant. One of them being that Embiid's never in shape. He certainly looks like he's in shape this year. He's been able to play pretty much straight through. It's still very early. They've only had 17, 18 games so far. We'll talk about him like skipping the other night and what's going on there. Good surprise with Tyrese Maxey. I would like to say at Green Legion Radio tomorrow, he's kind of cooled off since Furkan came back, and they're giving him his minutes. And why use Maxey? But I will tell you, maybe I'll save it for this one when he heats back up against Zach or on Green Legion Radio with the big squad. My theory of my theorem that Tyrese Maxey is Luke Skywalker. So we're going to bring in the Sixers and Star Wars together there. So it's interesting, and I think I nailed it.
Yeah, dude, I got to ask you a question. Is there any reason why Mike Scott is still on this team?
My buddies it was on the thread. I mean, he's hurt, so but why he's on the team?
I am so sick and tired of this clown's act. Like, seriously, bro. Like, why do you always have to? Like, did you not learn anything from when we played I'll say the Redskins because they were the Redskins at the time, but you didn't learn anything from that, and then you want to try and pick a fight after last night's game. Like
the Detroit game, he got a technical from the bench.
Seriously, the Sixers need to hire him as team security and take him off the roster because that's all he's good for. And his act last night almost like, what if things would have went off right there? You know who was right there to try and break it up? Joel Embiid. So what if he would have got Embiid involved in that? Like, I'm so sick and tired of his act. I don't want him here anymore. He doesn't have a role. He doesn't have a purpose. The guy is like 10th or 11th on the bench anymore. Like, buy his contract out and send him packing and let the kids play.
I think, listen, I'm not saying that it's great that he's here or I want him or anything like that. I think
it's minuscule, but
I think the thought is, he can hit threes. He does play tough. When he hits threes, he's a good guy to have on your team, but he's not really good at defense.
Yeah, but you have guys.
Can't handle the ball. Yeah.
You have guys that can hit threes now. Like, you don't need him anymore.
I think we're talking about.
You want to talk about tough defensively. Like, you have Thibault coming off the bench for that. You have Simmons on the court already for that. Like, there's no need for this clown to be on this team anymore.
I hear you. It's kind of small potatoes, especially like the attitude that he's like all tough and stuff like that. It's not needed, but he's the ninth guy off on the bench with some of the guys that have stepped up. I guess I don't know. He's a guy, and if you get him out, you're going to get another guy that might not have the attitude, but is like the same quality level of player. So it's kind of like he's a guy. I think they brought him back. I don't know if it's a 2-year deal, 1-year deal. It's like a minimum deal. It's like if you don't like him, he's not playing right now. I don't know what he was doing. They've got, they got other issues.
Well, if it's a minimum deal, it makes the buyout that much better.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's on the buyout.
Talk to Daryl Morey for me. Let him know how I feel.
Daryl's the man. I mean, the moves that he made this year, to get Seth Curry here, who kind of been slow to get back after he had his own COVID thing. But I mean,
nice shoes the other night, by the way.
He's leading the league in 3-point percentage. It's great. Like, he's not his brother certainly, but he can, if he's open, he's going to nail that shot. He's not that great at defense, a little slow, but to get off the Josh Richardson, who's a better player, but just we didn't need another Josh Richardson.
How was he playing this year? And
I think he was actually injured. I know or with COVID or something like that. Dallas was having some issues. It's hard to. That's really kind of the one thing I want to talk. Everyone wants to talk about Ben Simmons. I'm gonna get this. This is my Ben Simmons thing here. I understand that people believe or people want or people expect Ben Simmons to be a go-to scorer. He was drafted first overall. It's the most important skill in the game to have. He's never been that player. Unfortunately, it looks like he's not developing into that type of player. He is a good basketball player. He's an all-star level player. Is he going to take over and dominate games? Well, if he take over and dominate games, you're not going to see him doing like what Joel's been doing the last 3 weeks. You're going to see him by like D'ing up the best guy, picking the pocket, taking a steal, running down, dunking, driving, kicking to someone for an open three with some crazy pass, rebounding the ball. Like, he's not going to be a scorer guy. And like, I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm just saying that's how he is. I try to give the comparison, Zach, since you're a baseball guy. It's hard to like compare because he's such a weird guy. And if, the coach doesn't call him a point guard, but the fact that he calls himself a point guard and people like, well, this is what point guards do, and he doesn't do point guard stuff. I'll get you. I want to hear what you have to think about this. And it's not, you can't make a comparison in another sport because it's not, but it's sort of like this. It's sort of like as if you had a first baseman, right, who's left-handed. He bats .330. He steals 50 bases. He walks 80 times a year, barely ever strikes out, Gold Glove defense, and has 0 homers. You're like, well, he's a first baseman. We need and then we need power out of the first baseman. That's where you get your power. That's a power hitter. That's a power hitter position. We need power. And you're like, well, he doesn't hit power, but he hits all these other things, especially when you're on a team that's lacking in power hitting. You're like, your first baseman doesn't do any, and it's this one thing, and it just people just blows their mind. He's a first baseman that hits no homers ever. I mean, come on, and that's not a apples to apples comparison, but it's like he does a lot of other things that you need on a team. But when you're missing this one piece, keep in mind Tobias Harris is the highest paid player on the team. When you're missing this one thing, you're going to look to the star, the all-star, to pick it up, and it's just it. I don't think he's weak-minded or anything. It's just not in his game. We kind of have to. Unfortunately, I feel like it's not going to be there. You know what I mean?
I don't think the frustration would really be there with Ben if Joel played every game. Now, I don't expect Joel to play every game. I know that's how the Sixers are going to roll it. Back tightness is going to pop up every now and then because you can't technically say rest anymore. I don't know what Adam Silver's mythology of thinking now is as far as like what you can and what you can't say on the injury report. So we're like, I understand like he's going to take the night off, but the frustration of Sixers fans and myself, I'm a Sixers fan. I'm not as diehard as you. They're number 4 on my list. They're number 2 on yours. And it's just how things go. Like when, I'm more of a winter sports fan for the Flyers and you're more like, if the Flyers are on, I'm watching the Flyers. If the Sixers,
right.
If the Sixers and Flyers are both on, you're watching the Sixers. It's just how it goes. But I think the frustration that people have is when Joel does take that night off. And we talked about this on last week's show, is the fact that like people want Ben to take over that game. He doesn't need to take over every game because it's cool when Joel is putting up 35, 37, 40 points in a night. But he needs to be more aggressive on those nights where Joel is given the night off. And it's not like he doesn't know. They're not telling him 2 hours before the game like the rest of us find out that Joel's not playing. He's aware. I'm sure Doc has a schedule. This is when Joel's going to take off. Ben, this is when I need you to be more assertive. I need you to be more aggressive. We need 20 to 25 out of you tonight. And we're not asking you to take threes, but like I know the other night you were excited by how he played in that fourth quarter, and I looked at the stat line. I was like, oh, man, now he shot well from free throw, which I've told you all along.
That's the most important thing.
That's the most important thing because the last 5 minutes of a basketball game is crucial. And the guy that is your point guard for most of the game, if not all of the game, should be the guy controlling the ball with 5 minutes left to go. And he's shied away from the ball for the last couple of years, but this year he's gotten better from the stripe, and I'll give him credit on that. But I want him to be more aggressive when Joel is off, and I think that's the frustration that Sixers fans feel because have they won a game when Joel's been off this year? Because if the Sixers really want to make a case that Joel Embiid should be the MVP, they're doing a pretty damn good job of it themselves when they give him a night off.
No, they haven't. I think they're 0-4. This kind of leads. The Simmons thing is going to drag on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So it's kind of like at some point, though, I hear you. Like, he's just it's not going to come by shooting. It's even last night. You see him get the ball. It was like the third quarter. They were down by 15 points or something. He gets a steal, or he brings the ball up. He sees the seam. He drives hard to the hoop, lays it up, gets the basket. It goes to shoot the free throw, and you're like, he's good enough to do this all the time. The players that play him are either slower than him or smaller than him. Just use it and get there. But man, it can be frustrating. But man, if you've got both of those guys on the court, it's tough to beat them.
I like their starting five when Embiid's playing.
They're 9-0, 9-0.
I like their bench when everyone's healthy. That's, and I get it. You're not going to win every game in the NBA, but you need to learn how to play and how to win when your best player is not on the court. And that's been the frustration of Sixers fans for the last few years. And everybody's like, oh, it's Brett Brown. It's Brett Brown. Well, hey, guess what? Brett Brown is somewhere drinking a mojito with his beard and looking like the most interesting man in the world. Somewhere down in probably Costa Rica alongside a Quimby next to the pool somewhere. Like, could you imagine that? Like, if Brett Brown goes to Quimby, he's like, "Hey, man, can you put some lotion on my back?" I
think COVID has returned. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah, and it's true. It's funny. You don't see that anymore. But this there's no way for me to say this that doesn't sound like
being an apologist.
No, say like ultimately condescending. But my personal feeling, not everybody, but I think that just the general, like, and I'm going to say, like, you haven't done this, Zach, so I'm not saying you, but just someone like your fourth team out of the four. Yeah, like, I don't watch NBA. I don't really follow it, but, because my team isn't that good. If my team was fun to watch and they had good players and, they were kind of in the mix, I'd pay attention to it a little bit more. The problem with the Sixers is that there was a decade at least, 03 to, even if people didn't even find the process fun to watch, and it wasn't, but just
I did. I enjoyed $2 tickets.
Yeah, right. That's true. $2 for a row of tickets.
Dude, I remember one of the first times, like maybe not one of the first times. It was definitely, when on our first year dating, because, we dated for a little over a year before we got engaged. But I took her to a Sixers game. And tickets were $2 a piece. I parked in the P lot over by the Philly Stadium, which was free parking, and it was $1 pretzel night. Now, my wife is a cheap date; she knows that. But I'm
going to tell her.
But the most expensive stuff that we, that I spent money on that night was just beer, and it was a good time. But
it's good.
Yeah, I enjoyed the process years, man. It was a lot of fun.
Well, the point that I was trying to say is this: is that, like, I'm a little bit older, so I'm thinking, 90s for me, maybe for you, the turn of the century, and people like,
oh, the 01 Sixers are one of my favorite teams of all time.
But a lot of
01 Sixers.
A lot of people, they formed their view on basketball or NBA basketball in those times and checked out for a decade, for 10, 15 years, checked out until 2017 when, they signed Redick and they had they won one playoff series.
Embiid was finally healthy.
Yeah, Embiid was playing and Simmons was rookie of the year and all that. And like the game is different. And, you hear Joel talk about it. He's like, I'm not going to stand out. It's not 1997 where Shaq and Patrick Ewing are going to post up 12 times. It's just not that way. You have to go inside out. You run the floor. You play both ways, and you have to track players out to the three-point line. You're doing a lot of switching off. It's just a different game. And what happens now is it's the players, coaches, trainers started with this whole skipping and sitting games and stuff. That's where they really messed this up this year. And I will give it credit to the NHL. Is it a good measure of the NHL's team when you're playing your whole division the whole year? It's not a good measure for regular season games over the course of a season, but it's going to minimize the travel. It's going to minimize the chances of spread, which are two problems that the NBA are having now. The first thing is Embiid sitting, like I get it. People don't like it. They don't understand. I don't know if they don't understand it, but this is how like it works. You know how in the fourth preseason game, none of the starters, like Carson Wentz will not play in the fourth preseason game, and we just accept that because that's the way it is. This is the way it is now, especially with big guys and big guys with injury history. And it's like, oh, Joel should be able to play. It's like they're not taking any chances. They're not taking any chances. Today, the Clippers are going out somewhere, flying out for a 2 or 3 game. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are not on the plane. They're not even going because Paul George had a devastating injury. Kawhi Leonard had a devastating injury that kept him out for at least a season. And they're not taking any chances with all this travel and adding the COVID stuff. So it's kind of like it's not everybody. Ben Simmons seems to be able to play whenever there's a game. Joel Embiid, on the other hand, isn't. And we could say he's a baby. We could say he's this. But this is like league-wide. Kawhi, Anthony Davis. You know who doesn't take off a lot of time is LeBron. But he does take healthy days off. It's kind of a dichotomy here. If we talk about the Sixers choking, our good friend Hollis, they choke in the playoffs. If the playoffs is all that matters, if being healthy for the playoffs is the only thing that's important, they're not going to take chances on. So they're going to give rest days, and it's just the way it is. And it's like, well, back in my day, and I'm like, you never saw. First off, Shaq giving all these comments to Donovan Mitchell the other night, but Shaq, you didn't see Shaq running out to the 3-point line to cover people. Shaq was the most dominant player we saw, in the last 30 years as far as being a center. He was awesome, but like he wasn't out there shooting threes and driving. They show like one highlight of him when he was dribbling the ball up the floors like a rookie, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And now we have 7-footers like.
He was also a thinner Shaq.
That's true.
Yeah, man. When he got to LA, he put on the LA weight. He was just like, bam! I'm gonna be Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's
just different, and that's what they're gonna do. Which is I'm kind of running around the barn here, but this schedule. I mean, look at this here, and I don't want to hear what people have to say how it was back in the day. The game is faster now. There's more possessions. The pace has gone up. The shot clock has gone down. You have guys that are running all over the floor instead of just ISO ball like when Iverson was around, and there was a million foul shots every game. This is the Sixers' next 8 games, 2 weeks, starting tomorrow. Over the next 13 days, they have 8 games in 6 different cities in the middle of a pandemic. What the hell is that? They play the Lakers at home, and then I'm making this up here. They go to Chicago on Friday. Then on Sunday, they play OKC. And then on Tuesday, they're going to Chicago. And then they're going to Portland. Then they come home for a game. Then they go out to some other city. It's ridiculous. They are doing those 2-game homestands like you do, like the NHL is.
Yeah.
But what the hell are they going to all these cities? Think about all those bus drivers and hotel workers and airport workers and the crew and flying out and they don't think there's going to be a spread. Plus, if a guy on the Lakers has it, the Lakers just played Cleveland, I think, maybe. I don't know. But the Lakers have someone. They come here. Then we go to Chicago and this is how you spread it. It's just like, it's so backwards. I don't know what they were thinking.
You want to know what they were thinking? Adam Silver puts the NBA on the same pedestal as the NFL. And he saw the success that the NFL has. There's a big difference, though, Adam. Okay? They play 16 games. It's easier to move a game from Sunday to Tuesday or Wednesday.
And that sounded like wild. We were like, what, a Wednesday game?
Seriously. They played practically on every... Actually, they did. The NFL played on all 7 days of the week this year. Now, I enjoyed the hell out of it because it was like, whoa, hold on. All right,
kind of screwed up fantasy a little bit, though. You're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, but, hey, it happens. But, when you are smug and you are arrogant, and you think you know, you really don't know. Now, I'll give Adam Silver credit for one thing. They only released the first half schedule. But to me, the second half schedule has to be tighter as far as the travel's concerned. They have to, they have to do what the NHL did. I'm not saying that you have to play 7 teams 8 times, but you have to do it tighter. You have to ratchet it down just a little bit more because flying, why are the Lakers here? Why are the Lakers here?
Yeah, right. And I was going to say that. I was going to say, I didn't want you. I was afraid that you were going to be like, "Oh, you're afraid of them playing a good team." But
No,
like
man,
honestly, if you're not,
screw LeBron, screw Anthony Davis, whatever. I
Yeah.
don't care. I mean, I get it. It's a Wednesday primetime matchup on ESPN. Great for you, NBA. You get your big bucks and your ratings and all that stuff. But it is stupid.
It's stupid.
Like, to have and then then they'll go to Boston and play on Saturday night, another primetime matchup. Like, seriously, they did not think too much into this, man. Like, they should have condensed the travel. That's the only way that you're going to survive. The only way.
It's so dumb. And if you're not going to be mixing up the conferences, if it's still going to be like a team coming out of the East and a team coming out of the West, then stop mixing all these conferences together. Hey, I think that they should mix them up, but they're not. So just play the East. It's going to be a better determiner of who's the best team in the East. If they're only East playing East and we don't have to go out West. Now, we have to judge the talking heads like us, like, this is what LeBron and this is how I think actually Portland would be the first team in the East and all that. But it's ridiculous. What we have now, too, the standings mean nothing. They really do. They mean nothing. Oh, we beat Miami twice. They didn't have anybody. We lost to Denver. We had 7 players. Like, what do these standings even mean? It's going to be like, just be healthy and qualify for the playoffs, because there was a point, I think the Sixers were like in the 2nd seed spot. Their first round matchup would have been the Nets. The Nets have problems of their own on defense, but it's like, you're not going to know, like, finishing with the 1st seed is going to be good because it means, you were winning a lot of games, but at the expense of other teams that I don't think Washington has played a game in 2 weeks. Now they suck, but there's no level that you can just compare everyone against each other. It's such backwards.
I'm sick and tired of the way that how smug and arrogant these leagues tend to be. And listen, man, like, you are trying to play in the middle of a pandemic, and you are risking your players and their health and their family's health by flying them cross country, and you're doing it multiple times during the course of a season. Now, like I said, football is easy to do. Football was easy to pull off. But the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball, they need to understand that when you have a larger schedule, you need to make it as simple as possible. And Major League Baseball is set to report to spring training, in about 4 weeks.
Not even, yeah.
Not even, maybe
3 weeks.
So, like, they're set to report to spring training. They have no idea what the hell they're doing yet. Zero clue. They just said the other day that they don't want to do the DH, and the universal DH, and they don't want to expand the playoffs again. So, like,
the DH thing, I don't get. That seems like it'd be more jobs for players. What I mean?
It seems that way, but like, I always thought it was going to be in the National League as it is anyway. But apparently, it's not. It won't be this year. But like, come on, man! Like you guys need to wisen up. Like, we need to get on the same page so you guys can make your money, we can be entertained, but everybody is healthy and everybody is not put at risk. And that's what they need to understand. Now, I would love to get back into a stadium this year.
This year, I think we will at the end of the year. I don't think we will. Yeah,
I think so too. At some point we're going to be allowed back in once the vaccines and like a certain percentage amount of people get it. But man, we need to get this stuff in order, man, because like I'm surprised in most sports, like, you've had a full year to figure this the hell out, and you could look at the example of the NFL to a small degree, but for the love of God, like, what have you guys been doing?
I know it's so weird, like, and I don't know how if they compare in notes with each other, but you had the bubbles as far as safety goes. It was safe. It was not for mental health, but for physical health. It was great because you had everything was closed off in distance and everything like that. Then you have these guys, 8 games. I'm not saying anything about 8 games over 13 days. It's basically, they don't have any back-to-back. I think they have 1 back-to-back in there. But in 6 cities over 2, like, you're in a city for 2 days, then you leave to a new city. And so they're only at home for 2 of those games. It's just ridiculous.
Memphis has had 5-6 games in a row canceled.
Right after we played them.
It's like it's crazy to think about. Like, they need to rein this in and get it better, because eventually at some point, like, the NBA can't keep on doing this with all the cancellations. I mean, you don't want to go into football season again next year. Like, you don't want these players playing into August. And right now, with the way that they're currently constructed with their scheduling systems, if they still want to play over 70 games because of their television contract, they need to get their crap in order. And it starts at the top with the guy was the Camino from Star Wars.
The Camino, yeah.
Adam Silver looks like the Camino.
The Camino word. Wang Li or something like that. I forget what her name was. I don't know if gender wise it was a female voice, so I don't know. So we'll go from the NBA, whose schedule is a mess, to the NHL, and we've already been talking for an hour and 6, so we won't go through a whole lot. I know you were on your back. You didn't watch every single game while you were hurting there, but man, Flyers started so hot against Pittsburgh. They just dominated them. And then since then, what's been going on, dude? Like, this is your squad. And it's funny because during like the offseason, and I want to know what's going on. And, they're going to need, because of the playoffs last year, they need to add some second line, third line scoring or something like that. And they give up 4 goals every game. Now, some games they score 6. But they need Ben Simmons on their team. They have no defense. I've seen the stats for Carter Hart. Now he's pouting. You can't blame him. Like, what's going on here? Like, they need, man, if only they had some leadership at the top, and the longest standing captain in the league provided some stability and leadership. But like, what is going on with these guys? Like, it just doesn't not a good spot in their season right now.
First of all, Captain Claude is not the longest standing captain in the league. Okay?
No, on the franchise.
The longest, yeah. So tonight, Tuesday, he did break Bobby Clark's record. So congratulations to G on maintaining that. It's another thing that he's taken over the top in Flyers history on, just like he's top 5 on just about everything else. But I will digress. The Flyers have not played well. I haven't been able to watch a lot of the games, especially the last couple weeks. It's been kind of rough to try and watch anything, especially being in a room without a TV for practically the whole entire week and not really feeling like it. But hey, I digress again. So the Penguins, the first 2 games, they played pretty well. But even then, they were getting outshot. That's been the big problem with the Flyers. All around right now, they're having a lot of issues. Their forecheck isn't there on the offensive side. There's a lot of these first periods where they're coming out and they only get 4 or 5 shots. And then they kind of stabilize themselves in the second period, get some additional pressure. But, it's tough. If you're not getting 10, 11, 12 shots, like Wayne Gretzky said it best, okay? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So a lot of times I think the Flyers are trying to be a little too cute, trying to be a little too pretty. It might be time to maybe, to mix up the lines a little bit. I know AV's been trying to do that with some of the lines, but it's been tough because they're without Couturier right now. Good news is he's back on his skates. He is skating. He was skating yesterday. So hopefully we'll see him back at some point next week. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be closer towards the end of next week. Patrick's been playing well. Hayes has been there, here and there. James Remme's has 2 more goals tonight, which puts him at 5. He's played really well. AV's been very happy with his play here early on the season. But hey,
it's like defense. We need defensemen that defend.
What made the Flyers
bring the puck up.
What made the Flyers really good last year was the cohesiveness between their forward unit and their defensive unit. And I feel in a lot of ways, because they're trying to establish a forecheck and they're not getting the forecheck done, like they're getting the puck in the offensive zone, but as soon as their 3 forwards get down there to try and forecheck, or 2 forwards and 1, hanging back, by the time that they get in there, the defense already has the puck, and the other team is going the other way, which leads to odd man rushes, leads to breakaways, which hangs your defense out to dry, which isn't playing well to begin with, and then it doesn't help your goaltender out. Now, luckily, Brian Elliott has played well. He came in, he spelled Carter Hart after giving up 4 goals against Buffalo, which I saw that game, those 4 goals, man. Like, I don't know what you want him to do. There's only so much you can do when you're on one side of the net and the defender's not with the other guy at the other side of the net. Deflections, like those are things that are out of a goaltender's hands. Has Carter played well? No. But I'll tell you what, I was excited to see his frustration at the end of the Boston game the other night when he smashed his stick up against the goal. Because really, in reality, it's good for him to get the frustration out, but I think it's good for his teammates to see how frustrated he is. And it's not really like him saying, like, I'm frustrated with you guys, because all in reality, they know he's frustrated with himself and he knows he's better than the way he's been playing. But they take that to heart too, and that might solidify them a little bit better and get him a little more cohesive in front of him and Brian Elliott to make sure that they're protecting their goaltender. Because if you're getting scored on as much as you've been getting scored on your end of the ice and you're not scoring on the other end, you're not going to play competitive hockey games. It's just not going to happen.
So, and this is, conspiracy theory, like, the troll take of, the overtime game where they, like you said, they weren't in position and kind of hung him out to dry. But then the next game, he gave up 6 goals in, 2.5 periods or something like that on very few shots. Is this like a reaction where, like, if you guys don't want to play, then I'm not going to play either? I know that's not true. I know that's not true. But what's the deal with him? It's nothing with fans or intimidation, Carter Hart. But there really is something like his home road, like on the road, I'm making this up, but his goals against is like 3.75. And at home, it's like, barely a goal a game. It's just like the Sixers overall record at home versus away last year. Like, what is that? There's no fans there. He's not intimidated. I don't think there's anything like that. It's so weird. I mean, it's getting to be the sample size. It's not 2 games. It's like 20 games. It's weird. I don't know what it is.
Listen, if you look at his games so far played this season, he's really only played well. I think good in one of them, which was the second Penguins game. When we lost Couturier and we had lost a defenseman in that game, and he stood on his head that second period and allowed the Flyers to further their lead in the third. Outside of that, man, like opening night, he played okay. He was pulled against Buffalo. He started out really good against Boston in the first game against them. And then, the Flyers, I don't know what the hell happened in that fourth period, giving up 4 goals. It was an awesome overtime, awesome 3-on-3 overtime. Him and Tuukka were unbelievable, especially Tuukka. Tuukka was the reason why that game got to the shootout. The Flyers had unbelievable chances. And then he gives up 1 goal in the shootout. So, like, he played okay then too, but then, the Boston game, the second Boston game, man, you lose 6-1, and it's just like, man, like, what do we have to do to try and get this fixed? And, listen, he's a young kid. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself. He said before the season that he doesn't want to just be a regular NHL player. He wants to be the best NHL player. So maybe he needs to talk to a sports psychologist and he does. He talks to a sports psychologist.
I think all players should. Yeah. I mean, and it's not because you're
right.
Like
you're not a basket case or
no,
anything.
it keeps your head on straight. It keeps your perspective, keeps you focused, crowds out the noise. It's an important tool, and you want your players, like, they go to physical therapists, they go to trainers. Right. It's just training your mind. There's nothing wrong with that.
He's a good kid. He's going to be a really good goaltender in this league, and he's going to be a really good goaltender in this league for a long time. The thing is right now he's got to get out of his own head, and the defense and the forwards have to get it together. They have to reestablish the forecheck on the offensive side of the puck and keep the puck down there and actually put pressure on the other team's defense and goaltender. And on the defensive side of things, they need to solidify things up. They just got Shane Gostisbehere back tonight. Against the Devils. Now, Shane isn't exactly one of the best defensive.
He's not he's not a defenseman.
But they paired him with Provorov tonight, which kind of Myers was the defenseman that got hurt in the second game against the Penguins, and Myers is going to be out for probably a couple more weeks. And Myers is one of your young studs that he normally plays in the second pairing with Sanheim, and those two have played together exclusively over the last year. So that kind of takes a little bit away from what Sanheim can do because he doesn't have a familiarity with his partner on the blue line, and Provorov lost Niskin in the retirement. So we'll see what happens. Listen, it's it's a good thing that not a lot of teams have gotten off the good starts. You had an 11-day training camp, you had no preseason games, and you jumped right into the fray. And everybody sees the Flyers win the first 2 games against the Penguins, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're cut bound." But then, you get smoked by the Buffalo Sabres in your 3rd game, and you're like, "What the hell's going on?"
Right.
Like really, we need to settle in. It's 56 games. We got to get Couturier back. We have to get Myers back. Everybody else has to stay healthy, and there might be a move coming down the line. So we'll see, but. I'm not entirely too worried, but I want them to play a hell of a lot better than what I've been watching or following the last couple weeks since the season started.
We'll see how they go. We probably won't have a show for next week or maybe even the next couple of weeks here. So we'll give them some time to breathe and let it air out, and we'll come back to them both. And hopefully they're both in better spots health-wise, because both teams have been hit some little bit of injury stuff. So before we go, though, dude, you have any final thoughts?
Probably my final thought, and I'm probably going to wind up using this tomorrow on Get It Off Your Chest, is the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame.
Oh, boy. I didn't realize that today. I saw your post.
It's unbelievable.
Pretty bad.
How horrible you are. So you have a 4-hour series today, starting at 2:00, leading you in to 6:00 for your big show to announce who is going into the Hall of Fame. During the course of that 4 hours, you speak on pretty much everybody that's on the ballot. Now, shout out to Shane Victorino, no votes. We love you, bro. Flying Hawaiian, but we knew that wasn't going to happen. And eventually, I hope Scotty Rowland gets in. It's a shame what happened to Curt Schilling. I don't care about his political views. I don't care about the video game scandal in Rhode Island. I don't care. The guy had a Hall of Fame career. Okay, let's look at that from top to bottom. When you look at the story of Major League Baseball throughout the course of its history, okay, you can't tell the story without Curt Schilling. Okay, him and Randy Johnson are the reason why there's a championship in Arizona, and which is the shortest amount of time for a expansion team to win a championship, 4 years. Okay. If you look at his postseason resume as a whole, he was also a part of the 2 Red Sox championship teams, one of which broke the 86 years. 86 years, the curse of the Bambino when he went there. His first year, they friggin' won the World Series. So, I look at the history of Major League Baseball, and you can't tell the history without Curt Schilling, and it is a damn shame that these writers are the reason why he didn't get in, and he has requested to be taken off the ballot in the last year of his eligibility next year, so then that way he can be put to the Veterans Committee and be voted in by his fellow players instead of these pathetic baseball writers that have an agenda out there against these players for what they've done, not on the baseball field, but off the baseball field.
Yeah.
And that to me is a huge disgrace.
Yeah, and Curt Schilling, Curt Schilling is one case. I was a Bonds fan just because he was great. There was no Twitter back then. There was no Facebook. You just watched the games. You heard reports that he was surly to reporters. I don't care about reporters. I don't care about reporters. I don't care about sound bites after the game. Roger Clemens. You can't talk about the 90s of baseball without Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. You can't. You can't talk about them. Everyone did performance enhancing drugs. Remember when Jose Canseco said that he thought like 65% of players were taking something? Who knows if that's right? But everyone was like, "What is he talking about?" Well, it turns out he was closer than what we thought. He wasn't.
Look at some of the guys that have gotten in.
Oh God!
Yeah, they're not tied to it, but Piazza speculation,
Bagwell, yeah,
Biggio, even my dad. And I know a lot of people don't speculate with Ken Griffey, but Griffey started breaking down. And that's what happens when you're on steroids. Eventually, your body starts to break down, and that's what his body did, and he did it at a relatively young age.
Yeah.
Now, Griffey was great. He was a great player, and I'm not saying that he did or he didn't. I'm saying that's my dad's opinion, and I respect my dad's opinion. But we're putting these players into the Hall of Fame that you could sit there and I could look at Piazza and tell you that his body was different. Bagwell's body was different. Biggio
Bagwell,
Biggio was a small guy, but his body was different for a small guy. Like, it's inconceivable to sit here and say, okay, this guy did and this guy didn't. It's because the baseball writers liked Biggio, they liked Bagwell, they like Piazza, and they don't like Bonds and they don't like Clemens. And you sit here and you have memorabilia for all of these guys who were vilified after the fact, but you rode their coattails after you had to strike in 1994, you missed the World Series, you pissed people off, then you struggled with attendance in 95, 96, 97, and then in 98, baseball came back, and it came back because of the home run chase with McGuire and Sosa, who both, in my opinion, are not Hall of Famers. But you can't ride these guys' coattails back into prominence and then vilify them after the fact. It's part of your game. It's part of your history. Embrace it, and that's the way it should be.
That is a great way to end. Let's get some of that heat and bring it tomorrow to Green Legion Radio tomorrow. So closing thoughts here. Please, everyone, subscribe, download the iHeartRadio app, download, rate, review the shows. Helps us. Thank you to our sponsors, especially to Bud Light. We will see everyone tomorrow, 6 o'clock, Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter for Green Legion Radio with the full squad. We'll be talking NFL, and I want to talk some Baseball Hall of Fame tomorrow too. So for Sack and Hollis, for Hollis Thomas, see you all. Good night.
Then I get